My name is Shelby Smith. I'm the founder and director of the Unsilenced Movement. And today I'd like to take you behind the scenes of my award-winning short documentary film, More Than a Test, The Rise of the Unsilenced Movement, which is now officially streaming on YouTube. You can watch it for free. Link is in the description. In this video, I'll answer some FAQs about the film. You share a specific scene from the film where you made a deliberate creative choice and why you did. I think a creative choice that was very intentional for me was how the film opened and ended. Spoiler alert. But the film ends with the closing scene of a woman on stage, stepping up to a microphone and drawing a breath to speak. This was a very specific and deliberate choice I made to pair with the opening of the film with the lone woman on stage, right? So in both clips, we can't see the woman. We can only see her silhouette, but we also get this feeling of being in a crowded room of people with bright lights. It's a big deal. You can feel the pressure as she's standing on stage. And I feel like that just really captured the goal and mission and heart and soul of the Unsilenced Movement, which is empowering survivors of VCG trauma and similar procedures to speak up for the very first time, because we are creating a safe platform for them to do so. And I really paired these two scenes at the beginning and end to amplify the power and catharsis of speaking out about something for the very first time and using your voice for the very first time. It can take so many of us a long time to recover our true, authentic voices and feel confident in telling others what happened to us. So that was just very, very important to me. I really liked ending the film with the woman drawing a breath to speak, but not speaking quite yet, to capture the rise of the Unsilenced Movement. What is your preferred style of cinematography, and how do you use that to convey emotion? My approach to cinematography has always been a little bit hands-off in terms of narrative style. I don't typically like doing narration voiceovers. I don't really like speaking for others. My approach to storytelling is to let these voices speak for themselves, and it's my job as the storyteller to communicate the theme and message of the story in a compelling and accurate way. You'll notice that this film is very digitalized, such as the desktop background, the search bar, the text alerts, the email alerts as survivors are collaborating and connecting. It was a very intentional choice. I'll be the first to admit that one of the reasons is because this was a zero budget film. I completely paid all expenses out of pocket. So the digital approach was not just a stylistic technique, but obviously a logistical one. There are other motivations for creating it this way. You'll notice sort of this vintage retro aesthetic throughout the film. You'll also notice transitions between modern tech, so a laptop, and more traditional tech, such as, tape recorders.
We all had this procedure done.
And old film footage, and TVs that still play VHS tapes with the static. That is a very intentional transition point between scenes. I intentionally did that to highlight the overwhelming gap that survivors have to bridge later in life as they're coming to terms with VCG trauma and understanding all the ways that it did impact their lives because they were misled for so long. So every survivor interviewed in this film is in their 20s. However, we all had the procedure when we were mostly toddler aged, so 2, 3, 4, 5 years old, which kind of leaves us to navigate two very conflicting realities where this test looks so different from the child's perspective. I feel like that is often overlooked. A lot of people don't understand that we did not undergo this procedure as consenting adults. We went through it as preschool-aged children. Most of us grew up in the 90s or the early 2000s. It was a long time ago. The internet was just getting big. And so alternating between the modern tech and the vintage aesthetic was really important to me because it reminds the viewer of that childhood innocence that was robbed from us. We were kids. We were not adults, we were kids. Another reason I use these digital elements is to really capture the authentic progression of VCG survivorship. When I sat down to make this film, my goal was to put everyday people who are not affiliated with this test, don't even know what it is, in the shoes of your typical VCG survivor and what that experience looks like. Obviously, every experience is unique, but for myself and for many, many others, that experience was feeling very defective and alone, wondering what's wrong with us. So then we Google the test and then we read words like harmless, painless, safe, routine, low risk, all these things. Then we just sort of spiral into this realization, this dawning realization that, oh my God, it's just me, I'm alone, I'm a freak, I was the only one bothered by this. How could it have impacted my life so drastically in these life-altering ways, and I'm the only one? How? So the digital aspect was really meant to convey the survivor's journey from facing their VCUG experience to connecting with other survivors and healing and advocacy. So the digitalized film is meant to walk you through the different steps that survivors must take. And that just involved a lot of digging, a lot of research, and a lot of web crawling to find the only community that existed online at the time for this, which was on Reddit. So the scene where you see all these women texting one another and Googling stuff and coming to terms with it is truly powerful to me. And I really wanted to convey that power and that collaboration on screen. And digitalizing the film seemed like an excellent way to do that and to kind of give people the same experience that we had to walk through online to get to where we are now. What do you hope audiences take away from this film? I love and hate this question. VCG trauma is atrociously ignored. It's been ignored since the 1960s, and then it was ignored for another 30 years after the first child sexual abuse study came out in the 90s. The film was essentially the first step in telling the world that we exist. My #1 priority in spearheading this movement is to create a safer world for VCG survivors. It's a world where we can feel safe and confident to express ourselves and our stories and what happened to us, and not be invalidated or dismissed because of where the trauma occurred or who it was committed by. The primary thing I want audiences to take away from this film: VCUGs are a problem. They are inflicting known harm. Not only that, but parents and families are being lied to about it. Some are even coerced and threatened and blackmailed. This film is simply a call to action to improve the standard of care and protect future generations of kids from the same effects. This film is not meant to be ignored, and this is our rallying cry for others in this industry to step up, speak up, and make change. Demand change. All right, let's end on a fun note. There is an Easter egg in the film toward the end where you'll see a woman turning to face the city lights through her window. That scene is a callback to our original website header. Was a woman facing away from the camera, gazing out at the skyline, and it just invoked this sense of hope. That is all from me. Don't forget to stream More Than a Test on YouTube. It is about 24 minutes long. Thanks for joining us for this behind the scenes segment.